Are you ready? Can crush us. It don't really get no better than this. The podcast that you're looking for if you're really heavy into wrestling. Hosted by the Mark. Energy that's so amazing. Gotta keep it entertaining. Rep the Can Crusher Nation. Yeah, you know what's going down in the ring. Lights out when you hit a ding ding. Knock 'em out like boom bada bing. Hold it down, you can crown me the king. Got a shout out to the Miz and Duke the Dumpster. We choke slamming everybody. Power driving, hit 'em with a face buster. Yeah, this the show you need and it ain't no need for waiting. Mark, hold it down for the Can Crusher Nation. All about wrestling and keep it entertaining. Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. Time to break 'em, let's go. Yeah, Can Crushers. Yeah, Can Crushers. Let's go.
Hey, this is Space Jesus Billy Starks, and you're listening to the Out of the World podcast of Can Crushers.
Welcome back to another Can Crushers Wrestling Spotlight. I am your host, Mark the Mark Martinez, and we are back with another member of the tournament, the Shawn Shultz Futures Tournament, held from Pro Wrestling Clash, that will take place on May 17th in the TWE Arena in Red Bank, Tennessee. My guest today is a king of tournaments. This guy's been in so many tournaments, you have no clue. It is the HellRider, Jack Bruce Davidson. JBD for short. We're boys. We go way back. I don't know, man. I watched some of his stuff. I am worried that he's going to kick me through the phone, kick me through the computer, kick me through something, because HellRider is definitely his thing. I am really worried about this, so hopefully we can kind of calm him down and see where we can go. Yesterday I picked AJ Black. I did more homework last night, and now this guy's been in more tournaments than there's been tournaments. He's won several. He's from SoCal. He's coming all the way to Tennessee to take over this tournament. He's the king of tournaments. It's JBD. He's coming up next.
Hey, it's Cold Brew Cappuccino Jones here on Can Crushers, the most caffeinated and the most flavorful podcast, because I am on it.
And welcome back to Can Crushers, folks. You heard how excited I was to have another competitor in the Shawn Shultz Future Tournament coming up on May 17th. And this is probably the most rowdy, the HellRider, Jack Bruce Davidson, JBD. How the hell are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm here in Southern California, training out in the wild, getting ready for my trip all the way down to Red Bank, Tennessee on the 17th, because I'm getting ready to bring home a cup all the way back to Orange County, California.
Well, I'm going to jump right in on that. You have been in a few tournaments recently, haven't you? Like, you're just like the tournament king.
Oh, yeah. Tournaments are my specialty, because at the end of the day, there are bigger guys, there are stronger guys, but I have the most endurance out of anybody. I have the most gas in the tank. I have the big match motor that beats inside of me. And this tournament, it's going to be no different. However, it is my first tournament ever competing in the East Coast on the side of the Atlantic. So I've been training really hard for this opportunity.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that to dive into the Shultz Future Tournament. But let's, for us over here on the East Coast that don't know, JBD, let's go back when you're a little HellRider, like a Hell Minion, I guess. Who introduced you to professional wrestling? Mom, Dad, Aunt Sally, Uncle Joe? Like, how'd you find this crazy-ass sport?
Well, actually, it was my father, because growing up, we would flick through the channels on the TV after he would do a long day of work. One day, just wrestling happened to pop up, and all the personalities on that screen, it sparked something in me when I was a little kid, 3 years old. I was hooked. All the personalities, all the characters, the stories, everything about professional wrestling. it captured. It struck a chord in me.
What's your number one memory? Like mine is the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express with my grandfather. So when you're sitting there with Dad, what's the first thing you think of?
Honestly, with my father, it would have to be the Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar Iron Man match on SmackDown, because I was just a little kid at that time. But just seeing these two big, powerful, legit wrestling guys,
Beasts.
Beasts and forces of nature, just going for an hour, showing off endurance, the story, everything about it. It just, I knew in my heart of hearts I needed to do this one day after watching that match. A little later on in my life, the comeback of the man formerly known as Brian Danielson, after a career-threatening neck injury. Once he came back from that, I told myself, there's no excuse. There's no injury that I can't overcome. I gotta do this.
Isn't it amazing? And you're making a hard right turn for me right now, which is awesome because this is the way the show goes. Isn't it amazing how true life / wrestling storylines change each and every one of our lives as a fan first?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I think as fans, I think everybody, because deep down everybody's a fan. I think
right.
We all see a bit of ourselves in certain characters and see a bit of who we want to be in others. So when we get emotionally attached to them, and when they're hurting, we're hurting. When they're thriving, we're thriving. It's a beautiful thing.
Is wrestling a sickness, a drug, in a good aspect, not anything bad?
Well, I can never get enough of a fix. So it's an absolute drug. It's a rush of dopamine for sure. Because wrestling's been there for me in my hardest of times. It's been there for me when I've been up, when I've been down, and it's going to continue to be up there for me when I'm up and down. So
yeah, I agree. I've met some of the greatest people I know through professional wrestling, and I've met some of my biggest enemies in professional wrestling. So yeah, I completely understand. You brought up Kurt and Brock. Any other favorites when you were growing up that you and Dad were really linked onto?
Well, my dad was always a fan of the Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage, because we had a VHS, and he would play the old tapes from back in the day that him and my uncle would have, and those were really cool. I was always a huge fan of The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Rey Mysterio, because the ultimate underdog, arguably the greatest luchador of all time, aside from El Grande Americano. But
he's the new speed champion. So yeah.
Yeah. So those guys, are awesome. Obviously, Seth Rollins is amazing. Was amazing. I saw him when I was a little younger in my adolescence, and he's great. Brian Danielson, American Dragon, Claudio Castagnoli, Undertaker, all those guys.
When you're doing, I don't want to fast forward that one. Did you do sports anything when you were growing up? Because I linked that, when you and Dad were watching, wrestling, you knew you wanted to be a wrestler at 3, but you knew you couldn't get there until you got over these other sports to get you ready for wrestling. So what sports did you do to get you to wrestling when you were of age? Well,
first thing I did was I played football, because football and baseball, because my dad he's a huge baseball fan. Grew up in New Jersey, eventually moved out to California. Huge San Diego Padres fan, but he wanted me to be the first ever switch-armed pitcher, but it didn't go that way. And then because I like physicality, I played football. And I didn't know that professional wrestling schools were around. So I didn't know. I assumed that the big companies, WWE, New Japan, TNA, I assumed that they had to hit you up. So I didn't know about independent schools until much later on. But I played football. I sparred with the wrestling team. I dabbled a bit in track in high school. So I'm no stranger to sports.
So you had everything. You had your hits, you had your cognizance, you had your everything just preparing for professional wrestling. By the way, the trivia question to the switch-handed pitcher is Pat Venditti. I called some of his minor league baseball games. Sorry, I'm that guy. But yes.
Learn something new every day.
Did you not know that? I thought you were actually... Yeah, he came through crap. I don't know if it's Toronto's organization or whatever, but it was here on the East Coast. But yeah, Pat Venditti. Sorry, sidebar. Baseball, wrestling, both kind of same in one for me. So when did you know that you were getting into wrestling? How did you find it? Did you find a flyer that says, "Hey, come to Bob's training," or shout out your real one, by the way, too.
Oh, of course. So I was it was a little bit after my football career was over. I was kind of adrift a bit. I didn't know what I was going to do in the world. I knew for damn sure I didn't want to be in a cubicle. Nothing against being in a cubicle, but it just doesn't feel like a place for the HellRider.
Right.
But one day I saw a local promotion on Instagram about this company called Orange County Championship Wrestling here in state California, in the West Coast, Orange County, and I figured. So I went to this show. I figured, all right, let's see what's going on here, and then I watched, these countless wrestlers come out and give it their all, like really lay the physicality in, and then afterwards I built up the nerve to talk to John De La Ho, who's actually sponsoring me for this trip, but we'll get into that. I talked to him. I built up the nerve, and I said, "How do I get into this?" And he just said, "Kid, $80 a month, Monday and Wednesday nights." So showed up that Monday, and the rest is history.
Well, the rest isn't history because these are my favorite stories, JBD. You walk in there probably, and I don't know you. I don't know you, so you can slap me through the phone if you want to. You walk in there like, I fucking got this. No issue, right? I got this. How humble do you walk out after the first night?
Yeah. Everybody has their stories.
Right.
For me, it was very much, you take, everybody's wants to do wrestling until they do wrestling things. And then you find out the people that want to do it versus the people that need to do it. Because I took that first bump, and oh my God, it felt like a shockwave went through my body. A freaking electrical bolts were going through all my joints. And I knew from there I was hooked. Of course, as soon as I got home, straight into the ice bath. But it was that first feeling. It was like it was what I needed. It was what I needed to succeed.
Yeah.
And felt like I had direction in life.
So what, through training, and I want you to shout out your trainers because I think it's always good because give them props because you wouldn't be where you're at without them. But through training, what was your hardest thing to get? Was it psychology, the moves, the bumps, whatever?
So one of the hardest things to start out was actually figuring out how to take certain moves, like the arm drags, like taking the rolls with it, certain hold, figuring out how to gauge, how little or much to force to use. And then my trainer, Dan, who is named Azrael Bloodmancer, you can find him on Instagram and Facebook. He made a man out of me. He keeps, and I still go to this wrestling school, the OCCW Pro Dojo. You can find them on Instagram as well. You just, keep going. It's a constant challenge with the cardio and all that, but that was a huge thing, cardio, figuring out how to pace yourself, how to, be fast when you need to be fast, how to be slow when you need to be slow.
Right.
So that was a huge thing. And obviously Azrael, he beats you up until you can take it and until he makes a man out of you. Or he shows you the door.
Yeah. And I'm sure shows you the door with respect. Not, yeah. Right. Okay.
He's one of the, sorry.
No, go ahead.
If I could just say this real quick, Azrael, out here, he's one of the more underappreciated talents, and me and him, we've had our wars, and, you got to give the devil his due. He's worked about as hard as anybody else has ever worked. He's a black belt in karate, he specializes in multiple martial arts, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. He's one of the more underappreciated talents in Southern California wrestling history. So I just wanted to say that real quick.
This is me, and you can help me out. I need to have more SoCal guys on the show because here in the East, we aren't privy to a lot. I mean, now that it's all over, I'm speaking like when I was a kid, I guess. We didn't know SoCal wrestling existed. Shit, sometimes we didn't know stuff existed in Pennsylvania, where it was 2 hours down the road, essentially. But I need to, and maybe you can help me out, JBD, and toss this around. We need to get more to like you just said, appreciate what's out there. I know you can watch wrestling from all over the world in a heartbeat, but there's still some missing, I think, once in a while, right?
Right. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
There's always, a different flavor. There's always different sauce you can dip your wings in. There's always a different music to listen to. There's always a change of pace in life. So, I feel like there's a lot of talents out here that people out there need to see, and vice versa. There's a lot of talent from out there that we as Southern California wrestlers need to see.
And it's cool that you're coming across, but we're not here yet. We're not there yet. We're getting there. How about your first match? How was that? Walk me through your first match. Was it a rumble or something, or we're boom right into a singles?
So my first ever match was actually a rumble. It was a 30-man over the top rope rumble, kind of like the Royal Rumble. And I remember just being terrified. I was like, oh man, there's a lot of guys in there. There's a lot of these big guys. And I didn't really, I'll be honest, I didn't know who I was at that point. And obviously I went in there. I kicked a little ass, but a lot of those guys, they humbled me. They chopped me down. They beat me down. I gave it back, but they gave it back tenfold as well. And I was thrown over the top rope, and that was actually in February of 2020, right before shit hit the fan.
Yeah, that section of life.
Yeah. So then if I could segue into my first ever singles match, that kind of hit the reset button on everything, because everybody had to stay home for a while, and then eventually, guidelines started to be what they were. I went back to training. I was heavier than I was, because everybody got that quarantine 15.
Yep. Or 50 on my end, but go ahead.
Yeah. But I went back. Got in better shape. Azrael took us back in, and then I was like, all right, let's get back to it. And then I wrestled my first ever singles match in Heartbreak at the OCCW event called Social Dystopia, September 19, 2020, against a man by the name of Freddie Flores. And I came up short there. I brought a good fight, but he was just too experienced for me, at that time. And, he got the better of me. But I knew from that day on, I was like, I'm going to get better. I'm going to be at the top of this industry. I'm going to rule this industry.
Listen, you're only 5 years in, and you're still a baby in the sport. 5 years is nothing. It's a blink of the eye in professional wrestling terms, right?
Uh-huh.
So let's play the game of who JBD is. Give me, and I know it's going to be you times 100 or the whole the wrestling reference or anything like that, but for our audience, give me 3 wrestlers that you would compare yourself to of JBD. I have 2 that's sitting in the back of my head, and I'll give them to you after you say them.
That's tough. Because,
I know.
But it's tough to compare, so many talents and personalities that have come across this business. But obviously Triple H comes to mind, and another person that comes to mind is Bryan Danielson, American Dragon, because he wasn't the biggest guy, but he was tough. He went in there begging for a fight, and then obviously one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, Shawn Michaels. I think of that too because he same aspect. Not the biggest guy in his era, but he went out there and fought like hell and tried to steal the show everywhere he went. So if I had to create like a mashup, I think those guys would be top three.
My two that were in there, well, you stole one because I saw a little of Triple H too, just kind of that, and the other one would have been Mox. I can see where you could snap in a heartbeat. You got the HellRider thing, him and you and Mox are sharing that together and everything. So it was more like the hardcore edge. But yeah, Triple H and Mox were the first two that were in my mind. So pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break from you for a while before we get to the meat and potatoes of what we're on the show to talk about the Shultz future tournament. You're stuck on an island. I told you they get stupid and silly. You're stuck on an island. What three things do you need to survive?
Three things for me. Obviously, it has to be my. One of the things has to be my a George Foreman grill.
Okay.
Because I love my protein, I love my steak, and other meats. One of the things has to be my deodorant because despite being a HellRider, I don't tolerate swamp ass. I can't smell like a horse's ass.
I get it.
And then another thing would have to be the last thing rather would have to be a form of puzzles, because I gotta. While my mind can be strong, I can do push-ups, sit-ups, squats, burpees, all that. I have to remain mentally strong. So doing doing puzzles will help me stay keen.
I love those. In fact, God, that's actually better than I think anybody's ever answered. You actually thought this through in the 30 seconds of it, instead of saying my phone, a hairbrush, and perfume or anything. So that's unbelievable. Besides a world title, and I'm speaking like the WWE title, the NWA title, AEW title, throw all the world titles out. What secondary title would you like to have one day?
Well, I'm pretty sure this is the run-of-the-mill title, but the Intercontinental Championship, because of the lineage that's behind that in any company, whether it's IWGP, WWE, because that's kind of like the championship where the wrestlers they cut their iron doing that, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, various wrestlers have proven that they belong by raising those championships up above their heads.
100% agree. 100% agree, and that's mostly the answer. But every once in a while, we get somebody saying, man, I wish the European champion, I'd like to have that. I am the old NWA TV title. Remember the red one way back in the day? That would be mine. Yeah, so the correct answer is the IC Championship, JBD. I completely agree with you. But I just wanted to see if you were off kilter a little bit like me.
But the honorable mention, the United States Championship, because God bless America, and it's obviously a very prestigious. Same reason, very prestigious. Cody Rhodes, John Cena, basically who's who of great wrestlers who have held that.
Yeah, I'll go way back into the NWA and Magnum TA and Dusty and all. Yeah, so without a doubt. All right, last silly one, but it's really not silly. This was kind of one of the ones that pulls on the heartstring. You could take three people to dinner that have ever walked on this face of the earth. Who are you taking and why are you taking each person?
Oh boy, man, that's
a
Like, 3 people?
Yep.
Oh boy. Well, the first person I would want to take to dinner is Robin Williams, because I feel like Robin Williams is one of those people where he was a great writer. He was a great actor, and I feel like he, obviously the way he passed, it's tough. It's tough on everybody. It's still tough to me, and I would just want to tell him thank you for all those roles that he played, all the thank you for making us laugh, making us cry, all the great roles. Personally, my favorites is Dead Poet Society. That's one of my favorite films by him. Because it was straightforward. It wasn't, it wasn't just slapstick comedy. Not to say there's anything wrong with slapstick comedy.
No.
Absolutely. But it's just like it's like one of those proving grounds. Like, I can do this. I can make you feel. One other person that I would love to have dinner with is pick his brain a bit is Triple H, Paul Levesque. He's had the greatest career timeline in the history of, I think, almost anybody that's been in the wrestling business. He's one of those guys where obviously people want to say what they want to say about him, but he went from unknown talent to arguably the top of this industry. So, I'd want to pick his brain on that, understand
Without
where he's
a doubt.
at.
Yeah.
And one of the last people I would love to just talk to him is, to stay on the wrestling topic, Eddie Guerrero, because he, I know that a lot could be said about him, but he was truly one of the gems in professional wrestling. He made people laugh, he made them cry. He could be silly. He could be, he could be deadpan serious. He was one of a kind. And I feel like he left the earth way too soon. I know, he had a struggle with his life. I know he had his battles, he had his demons. We all have our demons, but I would just love to, talk to him and just, if I could, just say thank you for everything. You inspired so many people more than you'll ever know, especially in Southern California, Lucha Libre.
Without a doubt. JBD, you got me tears with the Robin Williams, one of the greatest human beings I've never met in my life. I'm in the same boat. I would just love to sit down with him. Wow, you just brought this a little somber, which that's what the question is to do, but nobody ever says any of mine. And I don't want them to. You are the first person that's ever brought up Robin Williams on the show, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know if this guy just has been stalking me or anything, but you echoed everything that I always say to people about Robin Williams, and Dead Poet Society is what it is. It's just him and going, and thank you. I needed that tonight. That was kind of like a cleanse for me, for somebody to say that. So, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, no. Back to you. A couple questions before we get into the Futures tournament. So everybody knows what's ahead. Your greatest achievement thus far in professional wrestling is?
So far?
Mm-hmm.
My greatest achievement so far, we talked about tournaments earlier.
Right.
Back in 2021, when I was still young in this business, I actually won a tournament known as the Bushido Cup. But that's one of them. The Bushido Cup, because I had 3 grueling matches against talents out here. The first, which is Sky Prince Kali, and we had a 10-minute match, which was very hard hitting. And then I beat him at that round, obviously, because I won the tournament.
Right.
Me. But then the next round, I faced off against New Age Berserker Rickster. Rickster and we went 20 minutes, and it was, I know people have their definition of strong style, but that was a real strong style match. That was a match where, 2 men really wanted to win that. I came out on top. And then in the finals, I wrestled for 23 minutes against a wrestler by the name of Inferno. And he is a big guy. I had to be I had to be a wildly smaller wrestler. Like, I guess to compare it, it would be like Diesel against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. And I came out on top, and it was one of the nights where I think people kind of understood, okay, this guy's the truth. He can go. He's not just one of these schmucks in Southern California that throws on yoga pants and, calls himself a wrestler. And, that's one of my biggest achievements, to date on paper. One of the matches I'm really proud of, though, if you're getting a two-parter,
Yeah,
sorry,
you can have 6 or 7 parts. This is your podcast. I'm just here to listen to your stories. You know that, right?
Well, thank you. But one of the other matches that I'm very proud of is myself against Azrael in a street fight match. And I know people think, street fight, oh, it's easy. You can just hit each other with weapons and walk around. But it was it was a hard-hitting brawl. People were at the edge of their seats the whole time. And, I came up short, but it was one of the nights where at the end of the night, even though I came up short, I got a standing ovation on the way out. And, it was a feeling of reassurance, like knowing, okay, maybe I am making an impact in this scene. Maybe I am a huge part of this business.
Just the way you told that story, JBD, I have a feeling that you're telling me that there was actually a story within the match. Even though it was a street fight match, there was still a story, because a lot of street fight matches, like you said, are just tables, ladders, chairs, cool, we're all hitting everybody with anything. It's a big gang war, and it doesn't make any sense. I read between the lines. Was there a major story with you and Azra in that?
So I'm going to give you
a 3-part now. Yeah. See?
Yeah. So Azrael and I were very familiar with each other. He trained me up, and then he had this group of dudes. We had this group of stable called the Shadow Society. It's still running to this day, but I am no longer a member. And we were, essentially the most powerful force in Southern California wrestling. We had myself, Azrael was the leader. We had Domino Grimes, who was my best friend. Me and him were a tag team known as Sin City. And then we had a big man by the name of Red Spider in our group, as well as, he left the group. Then it was AC Phoenix who joined the group, and he is like he is essentially Jason Voorhees. To compare him, he's like Jason Voorhees if Jason Voorhees decided to wrestle. And I rolled with this group for a while, and I decided, and for a while, they were kind of just like, treat me like I'm the run of the litter. Like, they were like blaming me for the shortcomings, and they were telling me, why are you working hard in these matches? Like, just cheat, just, you don't have to out wrestle the other guy. And in my mind, I was like, no, I want to earn these victories. I want to go in there and prove them the better man. I want to prove that I'm the best talent in this ring. And then that led to a divide between us. We had multiple matches. We had a last man standing match. I came out on top. We had a Falls Count Anywhere match where he came out on top. So this match was very much I guess for lack of a better term, a rubber match, because it was like, all right, I've proven that I can outlast you. You've proven that you can out-brutalize me. Let's see where we stand from here. And we left it all out there.
That sounds like the perfect novel. It really does. I close my eyes and listen to you, and I can just, picture these things going on, and yeah, awesome.
And obviously, Azrael and I are still beefing to this day, but
well, he's your Ric Flair to you being Steamboat. There's always going to be a beef.
Yes, of course, but I can't. I'm not going to ignore anything that he's accomplished. I'm not going to downplay anything, but where there's shadows, there's the light, and I am that light to his shadows.
Wow, that would have been perfect to end the show on. But we do have to talk about the Shawn Shultz Futures Tournament in Red Bank, Tennessee. So tell me how you got involved in this, what it means to you. You said you have an amazing sponsor. I definitely want you to talk about him and all. This is the gist of everything.
Got you. So I was, I knew in my heart of hearts, I knew in my heart of hearts that I wanted to wrestle on the East Coast. I've already wrestled in Washington, Utah. I've wrestled in Arizona. I've wrestled in Southern California, Central California, and I knew that in order to be better, in order to get the name out of the HellRider, Jack Bruce Davidson, in order for people to understand who the hell I am, I knew I needed to get the hell out of Southern California. I need to get out of my comfort zone. And I was looking at the East Coast. I was looking at the South. And one thing about Pro Wrestling Clash that stuck out to me is that it ran primarily in Georgia and Tennessee. And when I thought of Tennessee, I thought of Kerry the King. I thought of NWA. I thought about all these. It's essentially like a pro wrestling, history hub, history zone.
Yeah.
I think
it's a who's who.
It's a who's who, exactly. And I knew that I wanted to wrestle. I knew I needed to wrestle out there in order to grow and, get my name out there and have people understand who I am. And I'm not just the flash in the pan SoCal guy. I'm not afraid to leave my circle. And I let the brass know. I let Tyler Thomas know. I let him understand. I let him know I was hungry for this. I wanted to go out there. I wanted to just prove that I belong in professional wrestling, not Southern California indie wrestling. I belong in all aspects of professional wrestling. And then I let him know. I gave him my best pitch, and he told me, okay, let's see what you got. And then we set up the tournaments, and I thought, perfect. I'm going to prove that I can outrun everybody in that area. There's a lot of talent in this tournament. You got a lot of talented guys. You got Tavon Jordan. You got, Gaston and LaRue. You got all these guys.
AJ Black. Coots.
AJ Black.
Yeah.
You got Ethan Heyer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you got these guys, and I scouted them. I watched them, and I thought, these guys these are animals. These are stallions. I'm not discouraged. I'm going in there to prove myself.
Would it be stupid of me to ask if there's one that you're not worried, but maybe have concerns about? Or am I just stupid? Because why would you, say anything like that?
Well, first things first. I know that I can be any man in that tournament. Any person in that tournament that steps to me, I know I can outdo him. But I can't ignore the talent and the strength of Tavon Jordan. I know Country Boy Coots is a big, strong. He's Country Boy strong. You got guys like that. You got AJ Black. You got everybody. Every single person in this tournament is there for a reason and prove that they're the best. But I'm
better.
That's the thing, is that I'm showing up. They've never been in the ring with someone like me, and they're gonna find out on May 17th.
You know how Matt Cardona is the indie god. You are the tournament god, tournament king.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do they have on you? Yeah, you're the HellRider. What do they have on you? Nothing.
Oh,
you were born in tournaments.
Yeah, and I've fought my hardest fights in tournaments. So, it's nothing new to me. And I'm not downplaying the talent of these men by any means. These are very talented guys. It's just they've never seen anybody quite like me.
Yeah. JBD, a couple more questions, then we'll let you go because I know you're ready to hit the gym and do some stuff like that. But what's the rest of this year? Goals for 2025? Do you want to knock more? I mean, clearly you're knocking another state off, but knock more states off. Maybe get a dark match, do something like that.
Well, my goal is to be the face of a wrestling company come this by the end of 2025. I want to be the premier guy. I want to be a marquee guy, one of those people. And I want to make sure people know that it can be done. I want to fight for the people that can't, because a huge thing I believe is that the world is hell, but it doesn't mean you have to be defined by your surroundings. What you do in life gives you hell. You ride through it.
You ride through it. Before I let you give your socials and where else you're going to be and everything here in the near future, besides, Red Bank, Tennessee, I want to know your dream match of all time. You could pick anybody that's ever wrestled. Who, where, and what stipulation?
Oh my goodness, that's wow. Okay,
yeah, now you see, I don't give you guys time to think about these because you could banter anything up when we're talking on the phone. I have to throw some questions at you.
Oh no, that's great. That's great. It keeps me on my toes. I appreciate it. My dream match is ideally, I would love to wrestle AJ Styles and the main event of WrestleMania in a 60-minute Iron Man match. I know, nowadays, I know AJ is talking about, calling it a career soon. I know he's traveled the world over and over and over and over. But I think that AJ Styles and the HellRider Jack Bruce Davidson would have had an amazing match. I know that we would have torn the house down. Yeah. If I had to pick a site for that WrestleMania, I would pick SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles because obviously my family and friends can come out and, everybody I know could be there. And it is one of the biggest stadiums. I believe they had the most attendance for a single WrestleMania of all time.
Yep.
So, I'd love to share the history book with one of the best to ever do it.
I'm going to make a caveat on that, Matt, that it's going to be, AJ Styles TNA. We're going to make him in his prime. It's not going to be nothing against him right now because he would kick my ass for saying that. But yeah, we're going to make it AJ Styles TNA against you. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. AJ, he's hell of a talent, hell of an athlete.
He is. So give everybody your socials and where you're going to be over the next couple months. First and foremost, you do an amazing job on your socials. As I creeped on you to get a little bit of information on you and everything, I know where you're going to be before you get there. So you do a great job. Kudos to that because I'll throw you under the bus. This isn't Jack saying this. This is Mark saying this. A lot of indie wrestlers need to work on putting asses in seats. You don't.
Yep. Well, there's always room to grow in that aspect. There's always another seat to fill. Yep. But you can find me on social media under on Instagram, all one word, Jack Bruce Davidson. It's spelled exactly how it sounds. You can find me on Facebook, same aspects, just all my name, Jack Bruce Davidson. And then on Twitter on Twitter, you can find me under Jack Bruce Davidson as well. And on TikTok, you can find me under Jackie B. Dave 1998.
Now I'm going to have to get with you on TikTok. Are you doing dances? Are you doing dances on TikTok? Okay.
No. Jack Bruce Davidson / Jackie B. Dave on Instagram, on TikTok. Well, and I also have a Pro Wrestling Tees as well, if you want to check that out.
Yeah.
In case you wanted to buy really awesome shirts on there.
Jack will text me that link so then I can put it in the show notes so you can buy something directly right from there. So you want to do that later on, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. And then as for my dates coming up, I'm going to be wrestling for OCCW Shockwave Saturday nights, which is going to be all of June, every Saturday in June 7th through the 28th. This is going to be in Southern California at Stanton at my De La O Jiu-Jitsu Center. I know your listeners are wide around the world, so it might only apply to a small percentage, but, obviously you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So that'll be every Saturday in June, Shockwave Saturday night, OCCW at the dojo.
Does it get streamed or anything? I thought I saw some stuff on Facebook and everything, right?
I believe we are going to run a streaming service soon, but the matches are always available for to be reviewed after. But stay tuned on the Streaming. Sorry.
No, I get it. Yeah, no. See, I told you I did a little bit of homework. I was kind of in the reading some things real quick, so we'll be able to watch you a lot from the East Coast here in the near future.
Of course, and obviously, I hope to be back out there real soon.
Yeah, get you to Pennsylvania, get you into New York, get you like all over the place where I have some leads for you, but we'll talk on fire on that.
Awesome.
Anything that I missed or anything that you want to head out with?
Could I talk about the De La Hoya Jiu-Jitsu Center who sponsored me real quick?
Yeah, for sure. Why did we forget that?
I was too busy rambling. That's on me.
Okay.
I want to talk about my sponsor real quick. The sponsor of me coming out there is the De La Hoya Jiu-Jitsu Center, which is where I train. That's where the OCCW Pro Dojo is located. And the owner of that dojo is John De La Hoya, who is a former retired King of the Cage Hall of Famer who decided to, help me out with this. First things first, John, I don't know if you're ever going to see this, but if you ever see it, hear this. Thank you for sponsoring me on this trip. You're all right, old man. You're all right. And the sponsor is very important to me because at the end, it's in Stanton, California. It's in a rough neighborhood on Catella Avenue. It's not Disneyland. It's the hood. And there's a lot of classes at this dojo. There's boxing, there's jiu-jitsu, there's women's self-defense, high school collegiate wrestling, the pro wrestling class aforementioned, with Azrael as the lead trainer. And it helps steer youth and grown-ups alike in the right direction. It helps, them stay away from crime, stay away from the streets. And it teaches a lot of mental balance. And it's a huge deal to be able to represent the De La Hoya Jiu-Jitsu Center on this trip, May 17th.
I am honored to have you on this show because of everything you said in the last minute. Everything in the last 44 minutes beforehand, cool, it's wrestling. I can talk wrestling all the time. But that is wonderful. I love that center now, too. I want to do something for that center. I don't know what. Bake them cookies to do something. But just to hear people say stuff like that warms my heart. It really does, because a lot doesn't happen like that in the world. Everybody, if somebody takes a sponsorship, hey, I got the money, I'm off my way doing whatever, you just poured your heart out for them, and that's unbelievable. Thank you.
And one more thing, sorry, I know I'm.
No, I said this is your podcast. We'll talk for 3 hours, and I don't care.
But thank you. But one of the things that is cool about this the dojo, as I call it, the De La Hoya Jiu-Jitsu Center, is that John De La Hoya, he's not your generic stereotype of a cage fighter. He's not a guy that just talks out of his ass. He doesn't pretend to know anything that he doesn't. He's one of the people that is genuine. He teaches young men how to be young men. He teaches balance. He teaches humility, respect, all of those things. And I know out here some people obviously have mixed opinions about him, but he is the genuine article when it comes to knowledge and in martial arts and in life in general. And he's probably gonna kick my ass if he ever hears this.
I'm gonna find him. I'm gonna tag him and everything. I'm gonna find him so he does hear this, because this is, again, JBD. I love that we talk wrestling, but this is more meaningful than talking wrestling right now, because this man has changed your life.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It's
absolutely
unbelievable.
Took a 19-year-old kid with no vision and turn him into a killing machine.
Yeah. I love you. Thank you for coming on the show. I know you're the king of the tournament. I can't wait to see you on the 17th in Red Bank, kicking ass and taking names, brother.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an awesome show. It's an honor.
What's going on, you guys? This is the CEO of Shane Taylor Promotions and the baddest of all time, Shane Taylor, and you are listening to the Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast.
Guys, my guest today was the HellRider, JBD, Jack Bruce Davidson, and the amount of tournaments that he's been in, unbelievable. The wherewithal, the training, all of that is unbelievable that he has at such a young age. But man, oh man, the grace, the humbleness, the love that you just heard him in the last 5 minutes of that interview is unbelievable. It takes my breath away. There's somebody that much. So thank you all the sponsors that bring him over here. I mean, if you're listening to this and you know the owner of the dojo, you know anybody that's helped out JBD, let them hear that part of the podcast. You don't have to listen to my ramblings. Let them hear that, because he's so grateful he's getting every opportunity that he deserves in professional wrestling. And we talked for a little bit after, and I believe this is going to be somebody that you're going to see taking the states, the continent, the world by storm here in the near future. So Red Bank, you're getting to see him on May 17th. Make sure you get there. Make sure you get your tickets. Make sure you watch what JBD is bringing to the Shawn Shultz Future Tournament this year, because he's going to steal this thing. He's going to be the highlight. He's going to be awesome. AJ Black's probably going to come for me, but I think I'm switching winners now. I'm switching winners. I definitely am. I'm going JBD to the win. Okay? I'm switching it up. I'm going JBD to the win for sure, without a doubt. Guys, remember, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot. Make sure you tell your loved ones you love them, because you never know.